Okay, so official.
Definitely know that it's being recorded. So yeah, well, we'll begin with the sharing of the creative practice, and I'll pass on to Timothy and Luke to talk about their project.
Do you want to introduce yourself firstly?
Yeah, so I'm Timothea, and I guess I got to be interested in basic income because I spent a couple of years, or I'm still involved in kind of an artist-run space in Leith in Edinburgh, which is where I live. It's at the Cold Rue Barber, and when I was on the committee there, we spent a lot of time chatting about, I guess, labour in the arts and the kind of working conditions for artists. And I think, and like in the years that I was on the committee, it got harder and harder to survive doing that much voluntary work, as well as being able to sort of like live and pay rent in Edinburgh. And then I guess I ended up directly involved in Basic Income Network Scotland, because Toby was doing an event about one of his projects with them, and I've worked with Toby before on a project about pubs. I'm also a furloughed bartender. That's my actual job. Yeah, and so I work with Luke and lots of other lovely volunteers at Basic Income Network Scotland, and so we're doing this campaign about basic income in the arts. It doesn't have a very snappy name yet, but we're just sort of in the stages of it's not really public yet. It's not been launched yet. So it's in the planning stages. So we thought it would be good to tell all of you lot about it, because we thought people would have some interesting and relevant perspectives on it. So yeah, I think Luke's going to do a bit of a kind of overview about where it came from and what it's about, and then I'm going to chat a bit about the different elements of it, and then that'll be us.
Cool. I think my internet is kind of crashing and burning around me, so shout me if I end up lagging out. But yeah, so just to provide like a general overview, Basic Income Network Scotland is obviously a Scottish-based charity. We're trying to educate and basically just engage as many people as we can about basic income and spread the gospel. This campaign that we're doing is something we've wanted to do for a while. And basic income is obviously a policy which is a lot more than your typical dry economic policy, which no one cares about. It's kind of exciting, it's artistic, it's creative, and we wanted to do something which reflected that, something that's not just yet another report that no one's going to read apart from probably us in this chat. So we came up with the idea of this kind of exciting arts campaign, which is creating a visual representation of basic income, enabling people to visualize and imagine what a world with a basic income would be like, how that would impact their lives. And there's kind of multiple ways that's going to happen and that we want it to happen. So on the one hand, we want to use art to educate about what basic income is, and we want to use art to visualize what a future with a basic income is, because it feels impossible to engage people and get people on board in the campaign when you can't actually imagine a way of life like that, because it's so far away from the kind of system we live in now. But similarly, we want to use the campaign to talk about artists as well and their lived experiences and the challenges they've faced, particularly over the last 12 months, which have been pretty horrific, and talk about how basic income could impact that. So there's kind of like two to it, which
I think we might have just lost Luke a little bit at the end there. I don't know if Timothy could sort of fill in on what the two elements might have been.
Yeah, I'll send him a quick WhatsApp to tell him he's froze. Yeah, so yeah, I think the two elements that Luke was describing is, so yeah, and sorry, the guinea pigs are like exuding some real chaotic energy today, and they've tried being escaped again. they don't normally do. Yeah, so on the one hand, like being able to use art as a tool to like visualize how basically like to kind of engage people who aren't artists, but would benefit from like, you know, would have a better understanding of basic income through art. And then also to talk about how basic income would be better for artists. I think that's the two parts that Luke was going to explain. And then I guess, yeah, so it'll have the campaign as we've got planned at the moment is going to have sort of different elements to it. And then, so we're asking people to contribute in kind of two small ways. One of them will be any artworks they might have already made, or like just kind of quick small things that might visualize either you know, any of the things Luke's talked about, like life with the basic income. Yeah, like, yeah, maybe it might be pre-existing artworks, or they might be just small things, and they'll be part of a kind of showcase or like an online platform that we've also asked a kind of artist and web designer to work on. So the website will be sort of part of like an artist commission in itself, but also a container for these other things. And then we're also in the process of working on finalising with our board of trustees a couple of paid commissions, which one of them will be kind of part of the online sort of platform presentation as well. And that will be working with testimonials from artists and people about basic income. And so that, oh yeah, that's the other small part, that the small contribution we're asking people to make as well as artworks. And then, yeah, so we'll be putting out an open call soon to ask an artist to use these testimonials as a material, or maybe a kind of jumping off point. Like they might want to use lots of the testimonials, or like pick out on some like a small thing in one of them. Well, yeah, so that will be exciting to see what they do with that, and they'll work with the artist, web designer, to kind of have like, you know, make that work materialize. And then there'll be another part which will hopefully have more of an offline presence, which will be commissioning someone to do a kind of poster t-shirt design, because who can't resist a bit of merch. So yeah, that's the kind of main parts of the campaign. So I did get distracted by 2 free-range guinea pigs. And then when we actually launch the campaign, we will hopefully do a kind of online it'll still be online, won't it, even in the summer. An event, like a kind of panel discussion type event that kind of reflects on all the same themes, and hopefully everything will work together in a really nice, conceptually coherent way. And it'll be the website will be a good thing for like a good resource that we can keep coming back to as well.
Cool, that's brilliant. So sorry, just to recap on it, Timothy, so kind of like say it's a campaign, basically you're framing it as a campaign that's coming from Basic Income Scotland, using arts to kind of advocate for basic income by sort of talking about how it would affect artists, and kind of, but also like wider society, and getting artists to kind of illustrate that. There'd be an online component which is going to be done through an open call, as well as 2 commissions, and some sort of physical presence through a merch campaign as well. Brilliant. And is that kind of, and sorry, is it based in Leith, or is that just where you are? Is it
that's just where I am. So where the charity has got a kind of presence across Scotland, like mainly in Edinburgh and Glasgow at the moment, but we're hoping that the artists that respond to the open call, they could be anywhere in Scotland.
Fantastic. And the people that are allowed to submit to this open call or apply for the commissions, they can be from anywhere, or do they have to be Scottish?
They don't need to be Scottish, but they do need to be working in Scotland.
Okay.
But for the kind of smaller submissions that they're not a commission, they just send your stuff and we'll put it up. That could be people anywhere, could be any of you. And same for the kind of testimonials. I think, Luke, is your internet a bit better now? Did you want to just mention that Google form?
The joys of a student flat. So the whole point of the testimonials we want is, as I have no idea what I said you heard or not. Look forward to the recording of that. But no, what we want to do is create like a human face to a lot of it and make basic income seem more accessible, more human, kind of more tangible. And we felt one way of doing that is by actually asking people, how would a basic income affect your life? How, and not only will what we produce using those testimonials provide a human face, but that process of engaging with people will also represent part of the campaign. Every single person that imagines, what would I do with a basic income, is a form of activism in and of itself. And I guess that's kind of the beauty of what we're trying to do with this campaign is, and the initial reaching out to people and engaging with them is part of the campaign. And then what we create with it is, so what we're doing is creating like a Google form, super basic survey, which just asks basic questions. What would you do with a basic income? How would it impact your life, your community, your mental health, etc. So we'll drop that in the old WhatsApp group. And, if you guys want to answer it and circulate it as far and wide as possible, I think it'd be great to have as diverse a kind of voice as we can get, and really breathe, like we said, a human face into a really exciting movement. And that's, I think that's the aim of the campaign. So I guess in terms of like this, well, firstly, if any of you guys, have a desire to create some amazing art that you'd like us to showcase, that'd be great. But also how this kind of has landed for you, if you guys have any thoughts or suggestions, how you think we could work. We had a really good chat with Janie and like the Scottish Artists Union, like how we want to navigate it, because we think it's really important to engage with them. And we've been in contact with like the Scottish Women's Convention, who've spoken to a lot of their members about basic income and how that, like the gendered impact as well. So it'd be great to hear what you guys feel and how you think we could do it as well as possible.
That's great, Luke. Thanks, and cheers for sort of putting a few things in there, because there's obviously going to be some nice links with Sarah's presentation as well, and kind of the project that she's done. So I think it'll be nice to sort of pull those together. But equally, I mean, if has anyone got any sort of questions or comments or anything else that they'd like to sort of put to Timothea and Luke at this point about the campaign? Go on, Toby.
What sort of timescale are you guys working with? Because I know when we spoke like earlier on in the year, it was sort of March sort of time, but I imagine that's going to be later now.
Yeah, so now we're looking at launching the kind of open call part in March, and then we'll kind of the campaign will have to kind of like duck under all the stuff that the sort of wider charity will be doing about the Scottish elections in May, and then we'll re-emerge with some art later in the summer, probably June, July. And then that will be just before we're actually one of the local hosts for the Basic Income Earth Network Congress in August. So hopefully this kind of project will sort of be able to feed into that a bit as well, which I should probably mention that we also have an open call for papers for that at the moment. When it's like call for papers sounds more academic than it needs to, really. Like it can be workshops or any other kinds of presentation. I'll see if I can pop a link in the chat about that as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. So I mean, they're fantastic opportunities you're presenting to us as the group, and that we can sort of tell our networks about as well. I think that's really useful stuff to bring to the table. Thank you. Anyone with any other sort of questions or comments at this stage for Timothea or Luke? Not yet. Okay. But I like Renate's comment in the chat saying a tool to dream is the sort of thinking about art, a tool to dream is a lovely way of putting it. So Sarah, shall we move over to your sharing? Are you happy to? I think you're going to share your screen, aren't you? So show us some images as well and a bit of video. So I'll pass